Do you know you can travel to the United States without a visa? The United States has a program that allows you to travel to your favorite destinations, such as New York, California, Orlando, or any other state. Now, whether you're a tourist or you want to visit your family or your friends, you can do that by following what I'm about to show you in this video today. So, in this episode, I'm going to show you how to apply for the US Visa Waiver Program, how long it can take to get it approved, how you can retrieve the application through the ESTA website, and also how you can correct a mistake on your application. Stick to the end because you will also know if your kids are eligible for this program too. But before I start, please take the time to like this video and subscribe so that you can always be updated when we post new videos. You can also turn on your notifications if you don't want to miss any of them. So let's get started. The US Department of State announced major changes to the visa interview waiver policy in 2024. So if you plan to visit the US for tourism, conferences, or families, you really want to hear about this. They basically allow nationals of specific countries to travel to the US for tourism, business, or in transit for up to 90 days without having to get a visa. The visitors would receive the ESTA on arrival at the United States port of entry. So this rule applies to travel to all 50 US states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands, as well as to Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands, which also have an additional program with waivers for more nationalities. American Samoa has a similar but separate program. So how does this visa-free entry work? Well, it's all thanks to the Visa Waiver Program, the VWP, which currently includes around about 40 countries that you can see on the screen now. But there's more to it than just showing up at the airport. To be eligible, nationals from eligible Visa Waiver Program countries can use the ESTA authorization to enter the US. But what about permanent residents? Do they get the same privileges as citizens of those countries? Permanent residents of designated countries who are not their nationals do not qualify for a visa waiver. Although the eligibility for the visa waiver may be withdrawn at any time. This may happen if the United States believes that nationals of a certain country are more likely than before to violate their VWP restrictions, such as working without a permit or overstaying their allowed period of stay within the United States. Now, let me make this clear. If your nationality is not listed among the 40 countries, that means you're going to need a visa to travel to the US. In that case, to process your visa, you have to start with the online process of filling out the DS-160 form and then submitting it. Next, you can schedule an interview slot at the embassy. But if your nationality is listed, then you can fall under this program. So right now, I'll tell you how it works. In order to travel without a visa on the Visa Waiver Program, first, you'll need to apply for an electronic system for travel authorization, also known as ESTA, well, at least 72 hours before your flight. This quick online application is relatively straightforward and usually gets approved within minutes, if not hours, although it's definitely best to do it well in advance to avoid any last minute surprises. Nevertheless, the electronic system for travel authorization is a web-based system operated by the US Customs and Border Protection to determine eligibility. But here's something that most people don't know. ESTA does not determine whether a traveller can enter the US or not. It doesn't have the right to automatically grant you entry into the country. It's like a pre-screening process, whether they check you're worthy enough to go through the USA. So who are those in charge of you entering the US? This is determined by the US Customs and Border Protection upon arrival. So the ESTA system only collects biographic information and travel questions. So it's kind of like a background check, but for international travellers. Though ESTA applications can be submitted right before you travel, we do recommend you do it way before you purchase the tickets. Now, trust me, you don't want to be that person scrambling to fill out forms at the airport. I've been there, done that, and it's definitely not a good look. So how long does it take to complete the ESTA application for, or also get it approved? Now, according to the US government website, the estimated average time to complete this application is around about 23 minutes. However, some ESTA applications are typically processed within minutes, and most applicants receive a decision immediately after submitting the application. But in some cases, additional security checks may delay the decision by up to 24 hours. The maximum processing time is 72 hours. For example, when I applied for this, I forgot my passport at home with my tourist visa. I was in an emergency state at the airport 3 hours before my flight, and so you can definitely imagine the panic that I felt. So naturally, being from the UK, I can apply for an ESTA. Moreover, most people from the UK and Europe who don't have a tourist visa can just apply to the ESTA. Now, usually this process is supposed to be easy, but for me, it was extremely stressful. I didn't get an auto approval, but after around about 1.5 hours and at the last chance to catch my flight, I did get an approval. I have to tell you the stress though, the last minute running to the check-in was definitely not fun. So if you're in an emergency situation, definitely still apply. You might be like me and still make it in time. Also, when I submitted the application, it just went to a blank page. Now, at this point, I was definitely losing all hope, but later on, I got the email. So definitely, you get an email with an application number. Take that number and go to the Check Your Status page on the ESTA website, find your application, so by passport number and date of birth, then you can make your payment for processing. Now you're fully applied. Some get approved automatically, but I didn't. I had to wait for around about 1.5 hours. It really felt like an eternity, but in the end, it worked out fine. However, for some people who have applied, they saw authorization pending, with the following disclaimer saying, your travel authorization is under review because an immediate determination could not be made. This response does not indicate any negative findings. A determination will be available within 72 hours. So if you're having the same issues, just don't panic. It won't take you more than you expected. It'll definitely soon be approved. Meanwhile, how do I correct a mistake on my application? Well, let me break it down for you. The website will allow you to review and correct your data before submitting the application. So including reconfirming the passport number. Now, prior to submitting an application with the required payment information, you can correct all the data fields except for the passport issuing country of citizenship, and also your date of birth. But what if you've made a mistake on your passport or your biographical information? Well, in that case, you will need to submit a new application, and yes, the associated fee will be charged for each new application submitted. If there are any other mistakes though, well, no problem. You can correct or update them by clicking Check Individual Status under Check ESTA Status. I can tell you one thing, after this experience, I have definitely decided I will never mess around with travel documentation again. And so I started using iVisa instead. Now, let's talk about expiration dates. Do I need to apply for a new ESTA if my current travel authorization will expire while I'm in the United States? So the answer to this is no. ESTA travel authorization needs only to be valid upon arrival in the United States. It's like a one-time entry pass, valid until you step foot on American soil. Moreover, for parents traveling with their kids and wanting to visit the US, do you need to apply for an ESTA on behalf of your children? Well, the simple answer to that is yes. Accompanied and unaccompanied children, so regardless of age, who are nationals or citizens of Visa Waiver countries are required to have their own ESTA approval prior to their travel to the US. And the ESTA application process for your children is relatively straightforward. If you've completed an ESTA application for a minor, you may check the second option on the Waiver of Rights section. Of course, you should understand the terms of ESTA on behalf of your child or children, and you should answer the questions and statements truthfully as their guardian. Now, can I apply for an ESTA without having confirmed travel plans? You see, specific travel plans are not mandatory at the time of application, but you will need a US point of contact, someone in America to vouch for your visit. Although specific travel plans are not required, the address where you will be staying in the United States is recommended to complete the application. Even more, if multiple locations are planned, you only need to enter the first address. If a complete address is not known, you can enter the name of the hotel or the location you will visit. But what if you're just passing through? Like if you're in transit, well, then you can select yes to the is your travel to the US occurring in transit to another country. That's the question you will see in the travel information section. What's more, let's talk about the passport requirements for the Visa Waiver Program. First up, your passport must have a machine-readable zone on the biographic page. This is the area with 2 lines of numbers, letters and symbols at the bottom of the page. Secondly, it must be an electronic passport, which includes a digital chip containing biometric information about the passport owner. This chip enhances security and helps verify your identity. Meanwhile, take a note of this. Make sure your passport meets these requirements before you plan your trip under the Visa Waiver Program. Now, most people wonder if they need to bring a printout or digital copy of their travel authorization to the airport. Now, there is a need for that. You don't need to whip out a hard copy of that authorization at the airport. DHS will be able to communicate a traveller's ESTA status to the carriers. However, it is recommended that you print out the travel authorization application response in order to maintain a record of your travel authorization application number and to have confirmation of your ESTA status. But what if you're like me and you can't seem to keep track of important documents to save your life? Well, this is what I do. Suppose you did not receive or cannot locate your application number. Well, you can retrieve your application through the ESTA website by simply entering your passport number, country of citizenship, your passport issue date, your passport expiration date, and of course, your date of birth. Still have questions? Well, leave them to us in the comment section below and we'll definitely get back to you ASAP. If this video was helpful to you, please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more cool travel information. Also, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. And again, thanks for watching.